In a recent book that was published by a Harvard researcher by the name of Robert Putnam, he has a book called Bowling Alone. And he said that this gradual decline in communal interest and communal engagement has been the history of the West. He said a long time ago, organizations that used to give us meaning, like churches, he said, labor unions, fraternity organizations, there has been a steady decline in membership. And in its place, people have turned to social media, he said, video gaming, mobile phoning, and every other solitary individual pursuit. When you look at the names of the devices and the applications that you and I use today, you see the same theme, an emphasis on the individual and a rejection of the collective. We talk about the iPhone, and the iPad, and the iMac, and the Facebook, and the YouTube, and the MySpace. Today they speak about self-actualization, self-optimization, discovering your individuality, celebrating your specialness, they say. There has been a decline in the interest of the communal and a rise in the individual. Now, no longer is man defined by happiness when looking for the benefit of others. Rather, he looks inwardly to see what is good for himself, his career, and his personal family. What is scary about all of this is that this goes against everything we know about where happiness is to be found, whether by way of wahi revelation, or ancient philosophy and wisdom, or advice from our elders, or even contemporary research. This goes against what we have always known, that happiness is found in being part of the collective, part of something that is bigger than yourself, and adding value to other people's lives. And allow me to demonstrate this. Allah Jalla Jalaluhu, He said, Ya ayyuha alladhina amanu, O you who believe, إِذَا قِيلَ لَكُمْ تَفَسَّحُوا فِي الْمَجَالِسِ فَافْسَحُوا يَفْسَحِ اللَّهُ لَكُمْ. When you are told to make space in the gatherings, make space. Allah Almighty will make space for you. Something as small as making space for your brother in a busy gathering, and you say to him, Tafaddal, come next to me. Allah notices this and He promises to give you space as you gave space to your brother. You will say to me, space where? Where will I see this space from Allah Almighty? The ayah doesn't mention it. Why? To include every type of space that you need in your life. Space in poor health, space in your limited finance, space in deteriorating mental health, space with family who have abandoned you, space in your grave, space on Yawm al-Qiyamah, space in Jannah before Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Allah said, make space for people. I, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, will make space for you. This is how happiness is to be found. These were the words given by our mother Khadija radiallahu anha to her husband, the Prophet sallallahu alayhi wasallam, even before she knew any Quran and any prophetic tradition. He came back to her home shaking, terrified for his life. He feared for his death. When he saw Angel Jibreel for the first time, he said, Ya Khadija, oh Khadija, I feared for my life. What did she say to him? She said, no, I swear by Allah, Allah will never disgrace a man like you. Why? Listen to the characteristics she identified. Because you stay in touch with your family, and you carry the burdens of people, and you provide for the poor, and you honor your guests, and you take care of the calamities of those burdened with affliction. Every one of the characteristics that she identified in her husband, as per why Allah will make him happy, why Allah will make space for him, why Allah will protect him, had nothing to do with his individual pursuit, salah and siyam or anything like that. She said, you are good with the people. You are adding value to the life of others, so Allah will make space for you and He will make you happy. He will not disgrace you. Abdullah ibn Abbas radiallahu ta'ala anhuma, he said, listen to these beautiful words. He said, the one who does good to people can never fall, but if he slips, he will always find something to lean on. Make space for people. Ifsahu yafsahillahu lakum. Allah will make space for you. They have a Chinese proverb that says, if you want happiness for an hour, take a nap. If you want happiness for a day, go fishing. If you want happiness for a year, inherit a fortune. But if you want happiness for a lifetime, go and help someone. Everything we have known, whether by way of revelation, wahi, Quran, hadith, whether by way of research, ancient sayings, philosophies of the past, they all suggest the same thing. Much of happiness is found in looking outwardly to the needs of people, attending to their burdens, and being part of something that is bigger than yourself. I share with you a research that was done in the frontiers of psychology, and I quote, they said that we have found that pro-social behavior, which is the opposite of anti-social behavior. Pro-social behavior, meaning the behavior that attends to the welfare of other people. They have found that pro-social behavior is linked to, and I quote, happiness, well-being, psychological flourishing, and SWL, satisfaction with life. La ilaha illallah. Make space for people. I, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, will make space for you, he said. In another research that was published by the Journal of Positive Psychology, two researchers by the name of Sheldon and Titova, they said, and I quote, Whilst Americans are guaranteed the right to pursue happiness for themselves, they said, but might they be better off if they pursued happiness for others? They said, we have tested both strategies, meaning looking for happiness for yourself, pursuing it for others. We have tested both strategies, and we have come to the conclusion that the second pursuit is better in bringing happiness for people than the first. What I have just shared with you, my brother, my sister, is by design. Allah Jalla Jalaluhu has put it in the heart of every human being that happiness is found in Iman, belief in Him, Al-Amal As-Salih, doing good, and then attending to the needs of others. And Allah Almighty has made it our fitrah, our birthright, that misery, grief, inner darkness, sadness, hopelessness is found in rejecting Allah Almighty, in disobeying Him, and then being selfish in your life, only looking for what is good for you and your immediate family. This is by design. This is our DNA. We are always looking for meaning. Everywhere in life, you and I are doing this. We are asking ourselves the same question. You are looking for the evidence that you have left a mark on someone's life. You and I are looking for proof that we have changed something for the better. And when we send out that message and it comes back with a positive response, you've changed something, you've done khair, you feel happy. And when you send out that message and you discover you haven't done anything for anyone, you feel down. This is by design. This is how Allah Almighty made us. We want to be part of something that is bigger than ourselves, to define ourselves by a project in our lives that is 20 or 30 or 40 years old and longer than us. Have you considered being part of a charity? Are you part of an organization, a movement that you believe in? Have you added value to someone's life? And see what that will do for you. And almost every time the results are phenomenal. And I encourage you, my brother, my sister, to do the same. I conclude by giving you a case study. Evidence in action of the theory I have shared with you. Proof that this is a reality. Make space for people. Allah Almighty will make space for you in your life. Dr. Abdul Rahman As-Sumayt, rahimahullah ta'ala wa baraka fih, who passed away a few years ago, a Kuwaiti doctor who dedicated over 3 decades of his life to be in Africa and to serve and to make space for people. Look what Allah Almighty did for him. Dr. Abdul Rahman achieved things by Allah's permission what nations with multi-billion-dollar budgets would fail to achieve. And he speaks of a very emotional incident once with him and his wife, Suhaib in Madagascar. Dr. Abdul Rahman, for those who are unaware, is he who distributed over 30 or so years, 7 million copies of the Quran, and built 5,500 mosques across Africa, and sponsored over 50,000 orphans, many of whom became lawyers, doctors, and engineers, and built over 840 academic institutions from nurseries to universities, and built over 90 hospitals, and dug over 12,000 wells, and by Allah's permission, by the time he had passed away, around 10 million people had found their way to Islam through him and his team. Dr. Abdul Rahman, he said, I was once sat with my wife Suhaib in a small, battered, weathered cottage in Madagascar, and I looked at her face. She was exhausted. She was weary. And I thought to myself, perhaps she had reached the end of her tether. This was maybe a breaking point for Suhaib, my wife. I said to her, and he was anxious and nervous, Suhaib, how are you? She said to him, Abu Suhaib, you know what I was just thinking? She said to her, what were you just thinking? She said, I was just thinking, if Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala allows us to enter paradise, will we be as happy there as we are today? La ilaha illallah, the promise of Him. Ifsahu yafsahillahu lakum. Make space for people. Allah will make space for you. Look at the space Allah Almighty gave him and his wife because of their righteous endeavors. Brothers and sisters, in conclusion, everything I have just shared with you this afternoon relates only to the worldly returns, the worldly benefits of being a person defined by a communal benefit. The dunya we return. Nothing about the hereafter. Stronger relationships, better mental health, stronger spiritual health, an energizing resolve to live, a desire to wake up in the morning, to serve with energy and to sacrifice sleep because you are motivated. All of this Allah gives us when we make space for people and we connect our lives to something larger than our personal endeavors. What then, therefore, I ask, what then does Allah Almighty offer he or she who connects this amal, this deed, to Allah and the home of the hereafter? What awaits him? And the answer is found in one beautiful hadith, and I leave you with this. Muslim narrates on the authority of Abu Hurairah that the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, he said, whoever removes the difficulty from a Muslim in the life of this world, Allah will remove one of his difficulties on the Day of Judgment. And whoever removes the financial burden of a Muslim today, Allah will remove from him one of his stresses in this world and in the hereafter. And whoever covers the fault of another Muslim, Allah will cover his fault in this world and in the hereafter. And then the fourth and final sentence, the grand finale of the hadith, he said, and Allah will continue to serve the Muslim as long as that Muslim is at the service of his brother. Is there something in your life that you feel you can do with some intervention from Allah Almighty? Find somebody who needs something in his life and add value to it. Define your life by 20, 30, 40-year project, so that when you stand before Allah Almighty and He asks you, why do you deserve Jannah? You say, Ya Rab, here is my project of service to my ummah. Ya Rabbi, through this project, allow me to enter Jannah. I ask Allah Jalla Jalaluhu to allow us all to present Allah Almighty with this project and to allow us all to enter Al-Firdaus.